Thought about doing air guitar, but I don't think.
No thumbnail today.
Yeah,
What-
yeah. We do have a thumbnail, but I thought it'd be better if we saw our faces.
yeah, there you go.
So, yeah, coming off bad loss. How was the game for you? I know we were up late, but sitting with family, kind of one of those games. Like if we get blown out, I can maybe stop watching this in the third quarter, go to bed. But kind of a close game.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, it was frustrating for a lot of reasons, I think. But ultimately, I think it was the outcome many of us feared and didn't want to accept. And it's doesn't make it any easier of a loss, but it was the first. I didn't feel horrendous afterwards, right? It wasn't like I got my heart ripped out like the Bills usually do, right? Like, oh, we got a lead, but then we magically blew it somehow. Or, oh, this was such a meaningful game and we found a way to lose. No, it was just like, great, we lost. Now let's figure it out. Let's deal with the issues. Let's move on. And I really felt that way kind of directly after the game. It was one of the first times that I don't remember getting angry or like, depressed after a game. It was just like, okay, time to figure it out and move on. And all this, there's definitely a lot to talk about. A lot went wrong, but
there's something about the Bengals, whether it's the matchup or something. They just have the Bills number at this point, right? 2 games, roughly the same outcome, right? The playoff game last year, then this Monday night game. The Bengals just look comfortable playing the Bills. Nothing's hard for them, it seems.
My tweet after the game that I sent the next day was, my takeaway from that game is that it was a playoff game. It was a playoff caliber game. It felt like a playoff game, very primetime game, fun to watch, all that. But it felt like the Bills were the fringe team, right? Like hey, we made the playoff, guys. Look at us. Woohoo! And the Bengals were the real contenders, right?
Right.
And you can't.
Those are the underdogs.
You can't have it that way, right? Not even the underdogs, just content to be there. Like, oh, guys, we did so good. We were here, like going to Woodstock or something. Like, yeah, I was there.
Yeah, we played in Cincinnati.
Yeah, great. Yeah, we made the playoffs. Woohoo! Like, no, that's not what we're about anymore. You got to show that you're the team. And the frustrating part is that this team is so much better than that, right?
Right.
I mean,
we did not play their style.
Obviously, we're going to get deeper into it, but yeah, the offense continues to underperform. The defense, in my mind, continues to overperform. Can we give McDermott his flowers on that much? I mean, come on, at the end of the game, you got fucking Josh Norman and a guy who just joined the team 2 days ago.
Yeah. And I said that before the game, like when we were talking about it.
Him 4 times. Yeah. I mean, like,
when Josh Norman goes in the game, that's when you know we're losing bad. This game's over, folks. I just saw Josh Norman.
And it's a little bit unfair too, because the injuries are just, I mean, Hyde was hurt. Everybody just went down in this game, and it was brutal. I mean, when middle linebacker was like, I think at one point we were texting, like, I said, who is even playing right now? Because Dotson got a few snaps, and obviously Dorian Williams was out there. But that's not the depth you want to see.
Right.
It's like, God, when one guy goes down and then the next guy goes down. In all seriousness, though, from a defensive perspective, what Sean McDermott is doing and performing and getting those guys to do, take any other defense in the NFL right now, and I'm sorry, they're not as good as the Buffalo Bills. Period. End of story. What do I mean by that? Well, let's look at the D-line. Okay. Take out your best run, your Daquan Jones, who was playing out of his shoes. So take any defense and then take out their absolute best, inside defender, right? Lineman. Now take out or cut their best pass rusher, in our case, Von Miller, in half because he's recovering from injury, right? So take their best pass rusher, cut that in half, take their best interior D lineman and cut that out. Now take out both linebackers, take out their best cornerback. There's no way any defense in the NFL, anybody, I don't care who you are, no other defense in the NFL is going to succeed with that number of injuries. And the Bills have found a way to make it work. They're not playing, superstar caliber play anymore, but they are keeping themselves in the games when it counts. And the offense has got to do more to capitalize on the opportunities that the defense is giving them. The Bengals scored on their first 2 drives, and you see the final score. They only got 10 points from their first 2 drives to the end of the game. Insane.
Yeah.
That's excellent defense.
The Bengals had the ball the entire first half, it felt like. But, I mean, the Bills are, it was 21-10 for a long time. But, a quick score, and it felt like the Bills had their chances to actually win this game, right? The turnover, right? But, I mean, back to your defense point I was getting at, is I think it's a credit to continuity, right? Because I think a lot of these players have been here a long time. They know this system. McDermott always preaches we want to stop thinking, start playing, right? Be comfortable, make quick decisions. And I think, that when you have continuity, you can get more comfortable in the system.
Yes.
And,
well, and your depth is ready, right? Keeping that depth prepared is the hard part, right? Dorian Williams is not a starter. He's a rookie, right? Some of these guys, Josh Norman should not be on the field defensively, but in a case of urgent need, now he was, right? And that's Sean McDermott, and the defensive coaches and all that, having those guys ready, having that mentality of you need to be ready to be in the game and make an impact. And they're not playing up to par either. They need to be better, but still, it's amazing when you think about all of the injuries. This game just personified that to me, because how many times did the defense stop them in a row and the offense couldn't score, right? So it's yeah.
But I think a lot of people did have an L marked on this one, right? Like you said, Bengals just have the Bills number.
Right.
5-4 doesn't feel good. It's still a winning record at this point. The Jets loss certainly helps. The AFC North, everyone's 5-3. I think Baltimore's running away. They're 7-2 now. But all their teams 5-3. So it's like Bills still in it, but now the Bills are putting themselves in a position where you're getting into the tougher part of your schedule, and there's some must wins in there, right? I think Denver's a game you have to win now, because then you're getting ready for tough Jets defense, which again is probably a must win at this point.
Yes, absolutely.
I might have the order off, but it's bye, and then Kansas City, Philadelphia, Dallas. Right?
Philadelphia bye, Kansas City.
You can't lose all 3 of those games.
Yes.
Right, and likely the Bills won't.
No, lose. You need to win 2 out of 3 now because of the Bengals loss. That's what I said. Remember, was it 2 weeks ago? We went through the schedule game by game. I had this Cincinnati game as a loss, and I still had the Bills winning the division because they won 3 out of 4 of those games, basically. So now you need to beat 2 out of 3. You need to beat Dallas, the Eagles, and Kansas City. You need to win 2 out of 3 of those. To me, are must wins, right? And luckily, if you lose to the Eagles first, you still got 2 opportunities coming off your bye, playing Kansas City. Dallas at home, I think, is an advantage that they have I think the Bills could take advantage of that team. So I do think the Bills will win that. So I'm okay with it. And I believe the Bills could win all of those games. However, exactly what you said first things first, you must beat Denver. Yeah. You must beat the Jets. Now, in those games, I would love to see improvement. I would love to see the offense clicking. I would love to see the defense playing well. I don't care. Just win. Just win. I don't care if the score is 3-0. I don't care if the score is 38-29. I don't care if the score is to the Jets. You give up
14-9. Yeah.
I don't care. Yeah, I don't care if with the Jets you give up 30. As long as you score 31, it doesn't matter. The score does not matter in those 2. They are win, survive, get there. And then you play the Eagles, and you've got to win that game. You've got to find a way, and you've got to start moving in the right direction. So ideally, against the Broncos, against the Jets, we start finding our groove, right? The Broncos have looked better of late, right? They held Kansas City. They beat Kansas City. But I think they're still vulnerable, obviously. And the Jets playing in Buffalo, their offense can't do anything right, even though their defense plays us tough. I think we'll win that game too. So take care of the business in front of you, get moving in the right direction, and get prepared for those 3 tough games. And then we have the Chargers later on in the schedule. Don't forget. Now, they had a big win against the Jets. We don't know what they are going to look like at that time.
Right, not an
but
easy
it's
game.
No matter what. Yeah, I mean, you look at the quarterback, their number 1 receiver, as long as those guys are healthy, that's going to be a tough game, right?
Right,
so,
and you got Miami, right, which is obviously
at the end of the season,
a very tough game. So not easy for the Bills, but I mean, the NFL, it's rare that you have an easy schedule, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But this one's tougher than normal, right?
And we knew that coming into the season.
Than previous years.
Coming into the season, we looked at the schedule and said, this is the toughest schedule in the NFL. I did anyway. A lot of people did, right? You look at the names up and down the sheet. This is the hardest schedule in the NFL. That's why I only had the Bills winning 12 to 13 games and getting the division. And I still think that's a possibility. And when we went through it 2 weeks ago,
it's a little high.
The outcomes I had is there. I still think that's a possibility.
Yeah, I think it's 10-7 or 11-6 is where I'm at. But yeah, we went through that, and we can go through that again later here. Let's touch on the Bengals just a little bit before we move on with our lives. But they're 5-3. They're still sitting at the bottom of the AFC North. Do you think now that they've won 3 games against good teams, a lot of people are saying they're back and they're Super Bowl contenders, and is that true? Is that still true from what you saw?
It was last week before we played them. Yes, they are. Look at that team. They are that dang good. They have a very good defense. They have an unbelievable offense. In the game against the Bills, Jamar
Chase.
Jamar Chase, thank you, got hurt, and they still were able to produce, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody steps up a little bit. Big plays down the stretch. They had multiple guys make catches, right? It matters. They have that ability. In my mind, they should have lost this game. The way our defense was able to stop them, they should have lost. But guess what? Good teams find ways to win. Good teams do what it takes to win. And that's what the Bengals did. And they are built all the way around to be a successful team. They face their bumps in the road early on right now. And to me, the Bengals still have a good shot at winning the division because we know those teams are going to beat up on each other. And if they end up winning 3 more division games and Baltimore ends up losing a couple, then the Bengals are right back in that race. And as we said in the beginning of the season, that whole division is going to shuffle up. So the Bengals might make their way back to first place by the time playoffs come around.
Right. I think if you look at the big picture, Bengals were in the Super Bowl 2 years ago. That game came down to the Rams had the ball last and there's a penalty, right? But yeah, I feel like if Joe Burrow gets that ball, there's a real chance they win that, right? Last year came down to the championship game against Kansas City, and they had a penalty by a rookie who gave Pat Mahomes, got him in field goal range for the win. But I mean, it's that close to them to be in 2 back-to-back Super Bowls. So you got to have the conversation. Are they in contention for a third? And then you got to start talking about, is this the premier team in the AFC over Kansas City now? Not in the past, but now.
It's a tough call, but they're definitely a step above everybody else, meaning both of those teams, right? The Chiefs and the Bengals are the top tier in my book right now. And Cincy, again, the most frustrating part in game that's not related to the play on the field was, well, sort of related, was how is this team, the Bengals, a step ahead of where the Bills are? Mentality-wise, they've played in the Super Bowl, right? They're a step ahead. They should be 2 years behind the Bills, and it feels like they're 2 years ahead of us, right? That they've got the experience, that they're the team dominating, that they're playing like we're the team that's been here before and you got to beat us, where it should be the other way around. Josh Allen has more experience. Sean McDermott has more experience. This whole team should be better than they are. But on paper and on the field, when you see it, no matter what you're looking at, the Bengals look like that team that has more experience, that has more maturity, that has more confidence. And the Bills are playing like the team that needs to show that they can beat them, and they haven't.
Yeah, and it's obviously we know the receiver depth on that team, but they also have continuity, right? They've had the 2 coordinators for a number of years now. Obviously, Zach Taylor, offensive head coach. I think that helps a little bit when you have a high-powered offense with an offensive head coach. You get more production, right? So there's some of that, and plus Joe Burrow's just Joe Cool. You know what I mean? The moment's never too big for him. He's always the same person, and I think he gets a lot of credit there. And not to mention, they can run the football too, right? Something the Bills don't do or can't do. I don't know what the answer is, but they have balance, and it's just you cannot guard them because they can throw it to anybody, and the receivers win one-on-one.
Yep.
And then they can have a productive run game when it's needed. And I feel like those are 2 things the Bills can't do right now.
Can't or haven't. I would say haven't more than can't, right? Because they definitely can do those things. In the past, I would have said the run game cannot do those things. Now I don't think it's a can't, it's a haven't, right? Why? Some of it is the offensive line not doing what they do when, Cook is trying to make a run, not blocking correctly or whatever, losing their blocking. Some of it is offensive coordinator calling the plays. Why are you doing it this way? Like, it doesn't make sense. It's not working, yet you keep calling it. We've all, that storyline has been coming to fruition, and some of that played out in this game too. And same thing. So Cook to me is fully capable of being 100 yards per game guy, right? He has every talent and ability to do so. And I love what I've seen from him this year. It seems like even after contact, he's getting 2-3 yards, right? So you can stop him at the line. He's still getting 2-3 yards. And he's not a big bowling ball kind of running back, right? He's a shifty, speedy guy. So I do think that we have the ability to do that when needed. It's figuring out why it isn't happening and adjusting. I think that's the big word, adjustments, right? Because in my mind, Ken Dorsey has not adjusted. Like, dude, how many times do you need to bang your head against the concrete wall before you figure out it hurts? Because he just keeps going, right? And it's frustrating. But yeah, I mean, I do think we're capable of those things. And to me, we talked about this. I believe we have the weapons we need on offense. You can talk about, T. Higgins and Jamar Chase and all that, but we have Stephon Diggs. We have Dalton Kincaid. We have a rising star in Khalil Shakir. Those two, Kincaid and Shakir, are becoming the reliable targets after Diggs. Obviously, you can throw it to Diggs always. He is him, right? He is the guy. But Dalton Kincaid and Khalil Shakir are showing they catch the ball in reliable spaces. Okay, so reliable spots. They're both, I think Kincaid has like 2 drops, if that, and 2 misses on targets. And same for Shakir, only has 1. He's like 18 for 19 catching passes. That is
4
amazing.
for 4 in this game, yeah.
And he's getting more opportunities as these games go on. He's becoming the number 3, which is really one of the things that I wanted to see this offense try and do to change it up. So Ken Dorsey has to figure out, and Sean McDermott, because obviously it's on him too, what isn't working, why isn't it working, and what can we do differently? In this game specifically, that first drive of the game, you come out, you score a touchdown, and then you completely change up your game plan. Now, I get that you want to shift and you want to try and keep the other team guessing. But if it worked all the way down on a drive and you scored a touchdown, why in the living hell would you change? Just keep doing it until they figure it out. Then you have the shift ready. Oh, okay, they figured this out. Now we're going to go to some screen passes and break up their pass rush or whatever it may be. That's a general one in the NFL. But now it's,
Good point, because that first drive was 7 plays, 85 yards. Finished
and then they came out run, which I was like, what the hell are you doing?
4 plays, 1 yard, obviously punt. So something changed. It was run, and then didn't get the first down on third down, right? So
everything was clicking. You don't need to change what's working, and you don't need to go back to what doesn't work. And that seemed to be the case. Not that we couldn't get the run game going in this game. It's just that when you showed efficiently and you scored a touchdown, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Keep it moving, right? Look what Burrow did. He threw for 350 yards because they were efficient at getting the ball to the guys that needed it. And we kept, rushing him and showing pressure, and he just kept beating it, right? So
they had just a lot more plays than the Bills, right? They just had the ball for the whole first half. Mm-hmm. So I mean, some of that, but it's interesting. These offensive issues are interesting because they are leading statistical categories, right? Josh Allen looks efficient overall when you look at stats, but again, something doesn't seem to be clicking on the field. And whether that's not getting first downs in key moments, not sustaining drives consistently, that's definitely one. But, I really can't pinpoint what the problem is. And I think it's a little bit of everything, right? Like we talked about. Ken Dorsey's play calls, there's a lot of options, and I feel like the receivers are getting confused, or, it seems like there's a lot of thinking going on, and they're not on the same page with Josh. Josh misreading the play, which is pretty rare, but definitely happens a number of times a game, right?
Yes.
And then just lack of commitment to whatever it is. The run game, is it? Get into their second, third, fourth read, or is Gabe Davis getting separation when he has one-on-one? If they're doubling Diggs, right, and Kincaid's got focus, can Gabe Davis get open, right? And I think that's a big part of it. I think it's not consistent.
Yeah.
So
we talked about
some stuff there too.
The play that we were both pretty much most angry about on offense, which was literally both linebackers just staring at Josh Allen. standing there just going, "Wee, Josh Allen," and nobody could get open. How in the living hell do you take both linebackers and nobody gets open? To me, now, yes, obviously some of that falls on the players. Like, dude, get open. But what kind of plays are you calling that you're that predictable that they could basically take two guys off the field and you still can't get open? That's not acceptable at all. So that's where you got to look yourself in the mirror and say, okay, what isn't working here? Either we don't have the right guys on the field, which I don't think is the problem, or we're not drawing it up the right way, right? Literally, whatever routes we ran, whatever we did, it wasn't beating the guy against us. So with Khalil Shakir, maybe that's speed, dig in, right? Just run a freaking out route and go, right? Or maybe it's, Kincaid has to go over the middle. But the fact that nobody got open on that play is just again unacceptable. It was so frustrating.
We have to go back and watch, because what I thought when I first saw it was Josh predetermined the run. Right, he's already thinking in his mind, I'm going to do one read. If it's not there, I'm going to run. But yeah, like you said, it's double quarterback spy. Both linebackers filling the gaps, waiting for Josh to run. He ran right into him. And, like you said, they're playing so shallow towards the defensive line that somebody should be able to go over the middle, especially Kincaid, because that was kind of what he did most of the day, right? That's where he has special talent as a tight end. But again, I think personally that was Josh Allen premeditating the run. And some of that's got to stop, because, defenses evolve. Josh has to evolve too, right? And I think I'm not going to beat him up, because it's like, I know it's hard, and it's he's still a special talent and everything, and it's going to happen in a number of games, right? It's going to happen a number of times in every game. You know what I mean?
So, yeah, with the offense, you could go down the line, right? The receivers not getting open is not great, right? Gabe Davis disappearing again. I'll take my flowers on that one. Remember what I said last week when he had 2 touchdowns and everybody's going crazy? And what did I say? Okay, talk to me again next week. Gabe Davis stands when he does absolutely nothing, because that's the whole point about Gabe Davis. He's inconsistent. I want the guy to do well. I want him to succeed the rest of the season. He's not going to be a Bill next year. If I have anything to do with it, I don't. But still, in my mind, you go ahead, win the Super Bowl with the Bills, catch the game-winning Super Bowl catch, and go have fun playing for Indianapolis or whoever else decides to give you a contract, because I just can't deal with the inconsistency week to week. Sometimes he's open, sometimes he's deep, whatever it is, I just don't think he's the right guy. That's why I'm believing more in Khalil Shakir at this point. But so the wide receivers is a problem. The offensive line, in my mind, again, this game was inconsistent, missed a lot. Josh Allen had pressure on him too quickly. They haven't quite gelled, and you could say this about the entire team. They haven't quite gelled and clicked. But that offensive line, it's important for them to gel and click, to get on the same page, to be able to communicate non-verbally, right, on the field, meaning you just kind of feel what's happening next to you. You can pick it up. You can work with the guy next to you. I don't think we've seen that play out in a game yet. And as that's fixable, hopefully, you can gain that kind of communication, that kind of experience, that kind of and make it work for the games that count coming up now, right? You've worked through the rough patches. You figured it out. Go back to the tape. Go back to the coaches. Now it's time for you to do your job, figure it out, get it working, and click when it counts. Because as long as we get to the playoffs, we can be a threat as long as we're playing good football.
It's an interesting point you bring up about communication, because I thought in Tampa, the communication was phenomenal, and the Bills offense seemed to be on the same page in that game. But that's a lot harder to do, verbal communication, when you're on the road in Cincinnati in a primetime game. The crowd noise and things like that makes it hard. And Ken Dorsey actually mentioned that in the press conference this week, was they didn't go up-tempo. The offense wanted to be up-tempo, but the crowd noise was affecting their communication. So it's, and I feel like the Bills have been better at that
nonsense
in previous years.
That's what that was. That is complete and utter nonsense. Okay. That's not having your team ready. That's bad coaching. That is Sean McDermott's fault. That is Ken Dorsey's fault. You fail. You let your team down. If that's what you want to say in front of the microphone to the media out loud, then your ignorance is showing. Okay. Because you did not have, this was what I was most frustrated with in the game too. I think I've said that 3 times now, but I'm watching the game when we were down 2 scores and we ended up coming down and scoring for one. That drive was with I don't know, I think it was 8.5 minutes left when we got the ball, at least. Right. And I'm like, okay, 2 scores, 8.5 minutes. You better come out. You better play fast. You better know what you're doing. Line up, get to the. Instead, Josh Allen is making tea out there. Fucking huddle up. Hey, guys. Hey, what's going on over there? Hey, anybody, what play should we call? 50 seconds off the clock between plays. Are you freaking kidding me? Get up to the line, snap the ball, and throw it. What the hell are you doing? You spent 5 minutes. You played like you had the lead. And that, to me, is bad coaching. I'm sorry. You can't have your guys ready. You can't call 4 plays. If it was 30 seconds left in the game, what the hell would you have done? Walked off the field?
Huh? What drive are you talking about? You talking about the drive where they got the red zone and
we
fumbled?
Scored the touchdown and got the 2-point conversion. We scored. We did what we wanted to do. My point is you did it ineffectively, and that ultimately is why you lost the game. Not because they got the ball back, because you used 8 minutes to go down and score. I think it was 5 minutes, but still. You had the ball with 8.5 minutes left and 2 timeouts, and you finished a drive with a touchdown, and you put yourself in a bad position because your guys couldn't get up to the line and snap the ball. And I'm saying this as somebody who watches a lot of football. The most frustrating thing under Sean McDermott is his time management, and has been, and his challenges, which this game he screwed that up too. Most of the time it's me saying throw the challenge flag when he doesn't. This time I'm like, he threw it on that. But that to me didn't necessarily impact the game. Everybody's like, oh, but he lost the timeout. Oh, no, it was the drive we scored on. When they're going up there and they're huddling and they're trying to figure out call a play, your communication needs to be done on the sideline. You know you're getting the ball back. You should have those plays called. How come teams can do this around the league and the Bills can't? You have Josh fucking Allen. You can get down the field in 30 seconds, in 2 seconds. And they weren't. And that to me was, I was just angry the whole time. I'm like, tick, tick, tick. You're doing the Bengals a favor here. Go ahead, get a 10-yard pass. You're doing the Bengals a favor because you're huddling up and you're taking time. And there it goes, tick, tick, tick. And sure enough, they're like, great, the Bills scored a touchdown. We don't care. We don't give a shit. You scored a touchdown, but you took 6 minutes off the clock. That, I would sign up for that right now, said the Bengals coaches and team. Great. You took 6 minutes off the clock. Thank you. It was just, again, that is bad coaching. That is bad preparedness. And I don't know how to fix that because Sean McDermott has done that forever in my mind. It's like 40 seconds
back to the
left.
Rick Dennison days, yeah.
Yeah, 40 seconds left, 3 timeouts. Let's take a knee and go into halftime. What the fuck are you doing? Same thing here. Oh, you've got 8 minutes. Oh, let's just play like we have the lead, even though we're down by 2 scores. You've got to play more urgently. And then what happens? Bengals get the ball back. They get a first down. We use the timeout. Boom, game over.
Yep.
That's it. Because you spent too much damn time getting down the field and getting a touchdown because you were calling plays or doing whatever the hell. Why can't you play urgently in that moment? You know the game is on the line when you get the ball back down 2 scores with 8 minutes left and you failed your team. And to me, that's something Sean McDermott needs to answer for. And then they have the nerve to go in front of the cameras and say, well, it's because we couldn't communicate. You couldn't communicate when? Monday through Friday that week when you were practicing? Like, get those play calls in. It was, again, to me, there's no answer to that except Sean McDermott coming up and saying, we fucked up. We done fucked up. I don't know why. Like that, you have to be ready. If it were 30 seconds left in the game and we were down by a touchdown, they would be able to get up to the line and snap the ball. Now, even then, I've seen the Bills take a lot more time to do that than every other team. All these other teams have giant-ass offensive linemen too, and they managed to get to the line and snap the ball and spike it or do whatever they need to do to make it work. And the Bills have constantly, under Sean McDermott, not been able to do that. So to me, that is a fatal flaw because you will lose every game that's close like that if you can't make it work. And it doesn't matter. I'm not talking about the last 2 minutes only. I'm talking about that 8 minutes when you get the ball.
Yeah, it's the last drive for the Bills is the one you're talking about. It was 12 plays, 75 yards, and they spent 4 minutes, 36 seconds.
Unacceptable.
And this is the drive directly after the fumble in the red zone by Kincaid, which kills you because the fumble is the real problem here because you're in the red zone. Look, this game's a different outcome if they score on that drive.
Yes.
They had a chance to win it, right? That fumble was crucial. But this is what happens when you give your rookie 10 catches a game or 12 targets.
Mistakes
right?
are
You
going
can't
to
rely on
happen in
anybody
every game.
else, right?
Just like the refs, right? The refs fucking blew this game too, right? They blew it.
Yeah.
They stunk, but that's par for the course at this point. Welcome to the NFL. The refs suck, okay? That's just every team could say that.
You're going to win some, you're going to lose some with the refs.
Every team could say that. You know, the face mask, the touchdown they had when Tim Settle got a penalty called on him, their second touchdown, that was bullcrap. There was a lot of plays like that, but
the intentional grounding one was interesting to me because
they called it afterwards.
The word intentional grounding, right? And that was clearly a miscommunication. But
and they've never usually called it on plays like that before, and all of a sudden now they're going to call it.
All right, so we got it out of the system. Even though you said the Bills will probably lose this game, you're still mad.
Yes, well, again, because that's what needs to change long term. If you're in the playoffs and do that, it's going to affect you.
What do you want to? What needs to change to get this offense back to the standard, or what?
That's a heavy-handed question, right? Everything needs to be on the table. Okay, you need to. Again, we said this a few weeks ago. I said this a few weeks ago. I sincerely hope they are going into their meetings in the locker room with the players and saying, look, guys, we need to figure this out. Here's what's going well. Kincaid is catching passes every time. Shakir has grown into this third wide receiver role. Okay. But why aren't we able to finish drives and score? Why is our play calling changing the momentum, right?
Why are our two best pass catching receivers, Kincaid and Diggs, running into each other and falling down?
Oh my God. There was a couple plays like that. Yeah.
That's
our blockers on the run play. The blockers ran into each other. It was like, what the heck? But seriously, I just hope that they are in the locker room having those conversations with Josh Allen in the center of it, saying,
I'm sure they have been having that.
Josh Allen, another thing that I noticed in this game in the first quarter, they showed Josh Allen on the sideline and he looked totally dejected. Now I know he's focused, Josh Allen, and he's like in the zone and whatever, it's game time, but he just looked kind of like he was staring off into nothingness. And I didn't like that. That's not the Josh Allen we know when he's playing well. He's fiery. He has energy. He looks ready on the sideline. And in this game, in the first quarter, he's over there staring into nothingness like he's daydreaming or something. And I'm like, hello, earth to Josh Allen. You're in the game. Now, I honestly think that the shoulder injury is affecting him, especially on the deep passes, because we know that's a strength of Josh Allen, and it's become a flaw of Josh Allen, if you will. I don't like it when he throws deep passes because 90% of them are way offline and half of them get intercepted.
They're definitely struggling with the deep ball recently.
And a lot of that, I don't know. It's since that injury, it's gotten worse. So, you know, through these next couple of games, I think they also need to manage Josh Allen in a way that makes sense. Is it his injury? Okay. If that's the case, then bench his ass. You know what I mean? Then let him play a half, get up by a touchdown, and put the guy out there, Kyle Allen, to just give Josh Allen the rest that he needs, right? And that's what a backup quarterback is for. You're playing the Broncos, you're playing the Jets. You should be able to get the offense going enough to beat those teams if needed. Now, we all want to see Josh out there.
You're getting a little crazy now.
Well,
Josh has to play.
Josh has to play, but we're not going to
win with Kyle.
We're not going to get anywhere if Josh is hurt, right? You're going to see more of the same from Josh right now.
And that could be why we haven't seen fiery Josh, right? Like
exactly.
Why we haven't seen him run as much, even though he did have a couple nice runs.
And even in this game, the announcers pointed out that look at the way he's falling. He's turning, no matter where he is, to fall on his good shoulder and make sure he protects the bad shoulder. That's a good thing. That's a smart thing. But it just tells you that even he's conscious of, I can't land on this because when I do, it's really bad, you know? And
what you're seeing is Josh can't take over and win every game like he has last year before.
Correct. He needs more support.
It's exposing the talent on offense. Right. Correct. Your most consistent pass catcher as of late is Dalton Kincaid, a new addition. Right.
Yes. And obviously Diggs, but take away.
Sure, but like when you got, 10 catches to Kincaid, the defense starts focusing on him, and then you saw the touchdown to Diggs. Some of the problems I think Gabe Davis is not getting open consistently on one-on-one coverage. And you got to find ways to get him. They got him involved. I think it was the Tampa game. He had like 12 targets.
Yes, that's
right. A lot of screens underneath game. I think you got to get him involved in some way, and I think that's a good way to do it. But they got away from that in this game for whatever reason. I have to go back.
Yeah.
He only had 2 targets in this game.
And he wasn't open on a lot of them, right? So, I mean,
he got a face mask.
That one was brutal. Yes, that was
I think
brutal.
he had a step, right? And that Gabe Davis has caught that type of pass numerous times. We've seen that play numerous times. Not necessarily on him when you get a face mask and there's no call. I mean, come on. But, yeah, definitely got to spread the ball around more. And I think that's a big challenge is Dawson Knox being out. I think when he comes back, that's another reliable pass catcher, although we've seen him struggle a little bit, maybe because of injury.
Correct. Yeah, I think that was mainly the injury concerns.
When he gets back, I think it's another element for sure.
Agreed. He has that chemistry with Allen. Allen trusts him, knows where he is on the field. Now I feel like Kincaid and Shakir are starting to build that, right? That trust, that importance for big plays. Hey, Diggs is covered. Diggs is the guy. One of you is going to be, I know where you are on the field. I'm getting you the ball, even in a tight window, because we know Josh can do that. And these guys can catch, which is a miracle, right?
Yeah. I'd say the last thought on the scheme is it just seems like they're dialing up an offense and it's all option route and reading the defense. It's not really game plan specific necessarily is what it seems like. For example, we saw a mesh route supposed to run across the middle and it just looked like everyone was confused and two linebackers are covering three guys because it just kind of fell apart. Right. And I feel like Dable was more about game plan specific. We're going to, matchup like this matchup we like, so we're going to attack that, right? I don't think we're seeing that. I think they're trying to spread the ball around a lot, and there's a lot of option routes and things like that. And it's making everyone think a lot, and I think that's slowing down. Even though Josh is getting the ball out faster, I think it's slowing down the offense and making it harder to be effective consistently. That's my theory.
It could be. I mean, yeah, I don't know what else to say about this. It's a lot needs to change. That's our bottom thing. Ticker says, what needs to change.
Right.
A lot. They need to figure it out. A lot of people are calling for a coach to be fired. A lot of people say, oh, Sean McDermott. We're not there yet, folks. We're not there. Ken Dorsey certainly has shown enough in my mind that if they fired him, I'd be okay with it because it's clearly just not working right now. And everything seems to be going in the wrong direction rather than the right direction. You take one step forward, 2 steps back. You take another step forward, 2 steps back. It's like, okay, why are all these problems arising? And
I think the reason you can't make a change at this point, obviously there's a lot of them, but one I want to point out is we've seen this offense be extremely explosive this season.
Yes.
We've seen the highs of this offense. We know what they're capable of with the current staff and the current roster. How do we get back to that? Right. And I think that's some of what our defense is doing differently. That'd be interesting to look at. Are they playing deeper? Maybe that's why they're struggling with the deep ball, but you have to have an answer in the NFL. And I think their preparation is maybe a little too simple at this point. And maybe they're saving their good stuff for these tough games at Kansas City, Philadelphia, you know what I mean? But just right now it's not working. And I think there could be, they want to get hot at the right time.
Yes. I'd agree.
Right now is not the right time to be hot.
And you think about it, right? Last year, the Kansas City Chiefs, almost at this point in the season, we were talking about them not making the playoffs. Last year, they won the goddamn Super Bowl. And we said they weren't going to make the playoffs early in the season because they lost a lot of big games. You can turn it around. So all the negativity, you got to focus on what the potential is. Now, if they let us down against the Broncos or the Jets, we are in trouble because you have too many losses against AFC teams at this point.
It's out of your hands at that point. You're relying on external sources.
Exactly. And you don't want to be in that position. But you win the games you should, which, we really haven't seen necessarily other than the Jets game, a game where it was like, oh, the Bills should most definitely win this game and then not, right? So
probably should have. Be a lot different story if they won that game, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You'd be in a much better position just with one more win.
6-3 is a lot different than 5-4 for sure. And that's only one game. But yeah, speaking of that, a lot of people worried. A lot of national media saying the Super Bowl window's closed. Bills are going to miss the playoffs. Look,
those teams are going to eat their words.
With this AFC, though, I think this is the best AFC, from a competitive standpoint. In at least recent years, maybe ever that I can remember. You can see every team making the playoffs in some way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Except for maybe like a handful, but
I mean, yeah, think about it, right? If the Bills had to play the Texans, I would not be excited about that matchup right
we're
now.
worried about the
Not
Jets.
at all.
You
I
know?
know, right? The Jets, the way their
Yeah.
defense plays, their offense can't do anything. We're still worried. A team like the Texans, if we had to play them, a scrappy team like the Colts, who's playing way better than they should. Like, man, these are not like
Right.
easy
And I think
W's on
when
the
you have
schedule.
a competitive landscape like it is, the best teams are going to have a lower record than normal. This is why we both picked Jacksonville to have the 1 seed, because their schedule is just so much easier than the other teams. But I mean, like, in the AFC North is the best example. They're going to play each other and they're going to beat each other up, and the winner of that division is going to come out, the 3 or 4 seed, just because it's such a tough schedule.
Mm-hmm.
I understand Baltimore's right now looking like the best team in the AFC, but they got to go through their whole division still, right? There's a lot of games they got to play inside that division. They're not going to win them all. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Not to mention the Jets and Dolphins play each other twice in the next 5 weeks. First time they play is in 2 weeks. There's some losses, giving the Bills a little help, right? But, that's just what it's going to be. But again, you look at the schedule, and it is the Bills are going to be on the bubble. It's my prediction. You got to play Philly. You're at Kansas City, Dallas. They're not going to be in contention for the 1 seed.
The advantage the Bills have right now is being in the AFC East. That's our advantage, right? We lost to the Jets, we lost to New England, and we're still going to win the division. Okay? Because Miami has proven now they can't beat a good team, even though they scored 70 points and everybody crowned them the best team ever. That's not the case. They have their flaws too, and they're beatable, and the Bills crush them. We have their number. We play them again at the end of the season when it counts. They're going to fall on their face. I said this when they were 3-0, when they were 5-1, whatever it was, when everybody was crowning them. I said their Dolphins are going to dolphin. The Bills are going to win this division. I don't care if it's with 9 wins, 10 wins. Yeah. The Bills are going to win the division because the teams that are in the division are going to do their part to let that happen. I think it'll come down to that game now. It probably will. I've been saying my original prediction was it won't, but it probably will now.
The problem with Miami in the AFC East has a tough schedule, right? But they've played a lot of their tough games already. They lost them all, but they're in the past now. They're looking forward, right? They got the Raiders, Jets, Commanders, Titans, Jets again. Then they get Dallas, Baltimore, and Bills the last 3 weeks. But these next 4 games, if we're going by the rule that the Dolphins beat bad teams and lose to good teams, they're going to win the next 4 games.
They should, yes.
The Bills now are getting into the part of the schedule where it gets difficult. Obviously, we've talked about the Broncos, talked about the Jets, the next 2 games. I think it's bye week after that, and then they're at
Eagles
Philly.
First.
Eagles
then
first.
The bye
okay.
week.
Eagles at Philly, not in Buffalo. Bye week at Kansas City. Dallas in Buffalo. At LA for the Chargers. Patriots, and then the last game of the season. So got to have these next 2 wins, right? You'd like to see them. We talked about this early in the season. I'd like to see it get a little head start with the easier part of the schedule early in the season, but that is just not the case right now. Now, you didn't get the wins you needed, right, to feel comfortable. So now we're going into it with thinking you got to win this game, right? You have to beat the Broncos, and that's where you put yourself in a bad position.
It is, but I still think they're going to come out on the better side of it, right? In 5 weeks, we're going to be saying, "Wow, look, the Bills have clawed their way back into contention here, back into the conversation. What's going to be their seed in the playoffs?" And we'll see where Miami is at that point.
We
can't control that.
What was your win prediction? 12?
It was either 11 or 12. So I had us losing to
it went down to 11.
Well, I don't remember. So I had us losing to Cincinnati, right? And winning against Dallas, winning against Kansas City, and winning against Philly. So
3
only one more loss. Yeah, basically.
So only one more loss on the season in the next 8 games.
I think so, yes. And that has been kind of what the Bills have done in the past, right? Like the past 2 seasons, really getting hot down the stretch is what the Bills have done.
Yeah,
especially after the bye.
10-7 is what I said. So how many more losses? 3. So 3 losses of the next 8. It's not a great position. It's really not.
Because if you only do that,
you can easily find 3 losses in the
if
next
you only
8.
do that, you're dealing with the fact that you've got a lot of AFC losses already. That's going to hurt you
and
when it
2 in the
comes to
division.
playoff seeding.
Yeah, so that Patriots and Jets game is really important. It's just the path for Miami is easier at this point, and it's a lot tougher for the Bills. It's very easy to find 3-4 losses in the schedule.
It is if you're looking for it. But in the preseason, I said we would not beat Kansas, or we would not beat Cincinnati, right? I counted that as a loss. I said we would not beat Jackson.
You got to think
I counted that as a loss.
Philadelphia, Kansas City, and the Cowboys, you're going to lose one of those. That's still 2-1. If you come out of that 2-1, you're doing really well.
Exactly.
But again,
exactly.
Just because you're at Philly and then at Kansas City, those are just brutal. But yeah. And then, like you said, the division will likely come down to that last game if that's the case.
Yes. And it's likely to happen unless the Dolphins really fall flat on their face or have a major injury or something. But, we don't want that to happen. I expect them to lose games they're supposed to win at some point too, right? They've lost to all the good teams, but they're going to lose to one of these bad teams too. The Raiders could beat them, right? The way that they bounced back all of a sudden and became a team. Whoever else it is they play, those teams can beat them, right? The Jets, I'm not so confident in, but some of those other teams could.
Or something like that, right?
Tennessee, right?
Commanders,
yeah.
Commanders,
we talked about how scrappy these teams are, right? The Commanders' offense has been turning it on too. I really think that Miami's going to lose a couple of these games. The Bills have already been through that stretch. Miami hasn't. Like you said, they've lost their tough games or whatever, but they haven't been through adversity where they were supposed to win and lost a game. That's going to happen.
Let me ask you this then. So the question is, will the Bills miss the playoffs? How many losses will it take for the Bills to be out?
The other advantage the Bills have, when you said 10 wins, to me, gets you in. 10 wins.
I agree. I agree. I think 9-8 gets you in.
9-8 if it gets you the division, but I mean,
not 9-8 will be wild card.
It'll be tougher because you have at that point, a team like the Texans could be 9-8 and they'll beat us based on seeding in the AFC. A team like one of those AFC North teams where they beat up on each other, that helps us. That to me is an advantage, but I expect 2 of them to still be in, right? So if that's Baltimore in Cincinnati, then what happens to the Browns? The Browns might be 9-8, and then again, it hurts us that we have losses in the AFC that would be tiebreaker.
So does 8 and 9 get the
absolutely
Bills
not
playoffs if they're 8 and 9?
Yes, no team is going to make it at 8 and 9 in the AFC.
So that's what, 5 more losses? Yeah, 5 more.
To me, 9-8 is a stretch. 10 is a guaranteed in, basically, in my mind, as a wild card team.
You can find 5 losses in here: Philly, Chiefs, Cowboys, Chargers, Dolphins.
You're finding losses, which is like saying, you could lose to every team. So,
yeah, it is hard to imagine they'd lose that many. But I think, if we're going on history and what we've seen from the Bills, they're going to win one, lose one, win one, lose one. So let's say they split, win 4 of the last 8 and lose 4 of the last 8. That
has not the last 2 years. Their stretch going down the season is when they've played the best. They have one bad loss and then they go down the stretch. That could be this Cincinnati game. It would not surprise me if we go undefeated the rest of the season. This team is good enough, and we know if they start clicking, they can beat everybody. So it's just a matter of taking it one game at a time and seeing if this team is starting to improve.
Yeah, it's a fun conversation, but just going back and looking, what was the worst record that made the playoffs last year? Who was it? Do you remember? Let's see.
Who was the last seed? The Dolphins were the 7th seed in the AFC, right? So
okay, here we go. I got
they came to Buffalo.
So Miami was 9-8. They made the playoffs.
Yes, so 9 wins. Yeah.
So 9 was the cutoff last year. Just looking around real quick. There was a 10-7 team. That's the AFC. NFC.
The NFC had an 8-9 team, didn't they?
Let's see.
Seattle?
The AFC South. Seattle. Seattle was 9-8.
9-8. So they barely made it in. Yeah.
Giants were 9-7-1. And they barely made it in. You don't want to be in that position.
Yeah.
But it seems like 9-8 is the cutoff. And you're right. I think there's going to be a lot of 9-8 teams in the AFC.
And if that happens, we lose, right? Because you've
Yes.
already lost to too many AFC opponents.
Okay, so I think that's where the line is for the Bills. They got to get to 10 wins.
Yes.
So that's 5 more out of the last 8. Whew. So you can afford 3 losses.
You're not gonna get 3 losses.
I can see your 3 right here. At Philly, at Kansas City. Those are tough games. There's 2.
I don't know. At Philly, I think we're going to surprise that team a little bit. So right. I think that we will surprise that team. And Kansas City, we know how the Bills play against Kansas City. Been there, saw that regular season, the Bills will win, right? Like and especially now, they're weaker on offense. They're better on defense. Their defense is playing amazing. But we'll get there when that game comes, right? We got to deal with the Broncos on Monday Night Football. Yeah. That's what we have to deal with.
I just feel like Philadelphia's defense and their offensive line is huge.
They're very good. They're probably the best team in the NFL right now.
They're going to push the Bills around a lot. Anyway, we're looking forward. Monday Night Football versus the Broncos. It's in Buffalo. Any first thoughts on this Broncos team? I feel like there is some weapons here. Javonte Williams has gotten going for them. You know, Russell Wilson seems to be taking care of the football. They're still not scoring a lot of points, but they're taking care of the football better. And, you know, Jerry Jeudy, great route runner. I think that's something to pay attention to. Courtland Sutton can body up. We saw T. Higgins have a field day with this secondary. He just
the zone defense. I mean, he just attacked.
So you got to watch that.
They attacked the zone very well, but that's what we know since he does that well. I do not expect that same efficiency from the Broncos. The Broncos are playing much better football, as we kind of mentioned earlier. That's going to make them they're not an opponent to overlook, right? They still have talented guys. They have had. Their defense, however, I think is extremely vulnerable, and that's where
that's what I was going to say as well.
The Bills need to capitalize, because even if your defense gives up some points to that offense, I expect us to stop them more than they're going to stop us.
Yeah, they lack speed, especially across the middle, right? Those linebackers are pretty slow. And so I think the Bills' offense actually fits right into that.
Yes, they're going to. Yes, plays to our strengths, which is great.
Kincaid could have a big day.
Correct.
Versus those slower linebackers, but that's kind of what that's been the problem with the Broncos and why their record's not great, is because their defense is historically bad, or was. I think they've been a little better in previous weeks, but early in the season they were historically bad. You got to take advantage of it, right? Crowd's going to be electric. This is a great week to bounce back. The Bills need it more than ever. This is a good game to score 30 points.
Wouldn't it be great if we scored like 80? Because the Dolphins scored 70, so we got.
We don't got
people suddenly crown them as the best team.
Yeah. All right. So you can tune in with us Thursday, and we'll be talking about all the games going into
breaking it down.
10.
Yeah.
And we'll definitely talk about this Broncos game and the matchups, getting in depth. Probably for about 15-20 minutes in the first part of the episode before we get into every game. Anthony makes his pick 6. Tune in Thursday for that. Around the league a little bit, Carson Wentz signs with the Rams.
Interesting move. I think it could be a long-term, if they think Stafford's going to be out the rest of the season or something, that could be a safety move there. Right now, I think it's just protection, right? You need another quarterback. He's not going to start this week. That's too quick. But
Josh Dobbs did it.
Inexperienced. Josh Dobbs is inhuman. How about Josh Dobbs? Remember last week I said I am happy about the Josh Dobbs move from Minnesota. I think they can win. I picked them to win. I changed my pick.
I didn't agree with that.
I know. And Dobbs,
he wasn't going to play. It was Jaron Hall, and he went out with a concussion.
Dobbs is legit. Yeah, he's getting blood from a stone in Arizona. He comes in. They still don't have Jefferson. That team is going to be a playoff team, and they're going to make some noise. So I'm excited about what's going on there. Anyway, Carson Wentz, though, he's not a difference maker anymore. He's not somebody you get excited about, but it's a safety valve for the Rams to say, hey, we need a starter just in case, because what we've seen from the guys we got isn't good enough. And, we don't know what's going to happen with Stafford long term.
Yeah, it's a good point. And I thought the Giants should have went for Carson Wentz, right? Same size, same build as Josh Allen, almost like within an inch, right? They're both big bodies. I thought Dable would like that with Daniel Jones getting hurt, but that didn't happen. So the Rams scoop him up, and good bounce back opportunity for Carson Wentz, right? Because I think with Sean McVay, he's going to have to play in a system. And I think that's kind of why he doesn't have a job, right? He plays outside the system too much. So that'll be
Dable's a smart coach. He's not going to sign Carson Wentz.
Okay.
They don't want to win games.
Who are you
They're
going
done. They don't want to win games.
Good point.
They want a high pick.
DeVito, like, local kid.
Oh, yeah. That's right. Yeah. Get him going.
DeVito.
Don't let him throw a pass, though, because we're trying to lose.
Yeah. Well, that'll be interesting. If the Giants are in the top 5, they're going to get a quarterback, no doubt.
I
don't know. They did sign Jones. Well, you can sit a quarterback for a year. You saw it with Pat Mahomes,
Trade back, you look what the Bears got. You get a haul, man.
Yeah,
that's what you're looking for, especially with this draft class.
Yeah.
You could get quite the haul.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I did see Josh Dobbs. Was he selected by NASA to go to Mars? Did I see that today?
What? I did not see that story. I don't know, but that's crazy.
Yeah, I think he was selected by NASA to lead a Mars team to orbit Mars in 2024.
Okay.
Because he's a rocket scientist.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Gotta find the source.
Oh, you're looking for it. Oh, okay. So yeah,
I read it
other
earlier.
News around the league we didn't get to talk about. Let's see. Storylines from this week in football. The morning game. I mean, the Dolphins obviously losing to Kansas City was huge. We had football all day long. The 1:00 slate to me was disappointing. And I wanted to watch the Cowboys versus Eagles game, and instead here the Giants game was on. The Giants Raiders. I'm like, what is this? You're putting that game on television? The Dallas losing to the Eagles in the fashion that they did, much as I predicted. Dallas just not good enough to make plays when it counts. If they're not up big, they don't end up with the win. So again, that's a Bills opponent coming up. I think we could find an advantage in that history that when they're down, they don't come back. So let's make that happen when we play them. But again, the Eagles with that big win, looking like the best team in football, holding on though. They almost gave it up, which again, we play the Eagles too. I think they're vulnerable. NFL was fun this week though. It was fun because you had games all day long. It sucks always when your team's the last one to play on that day, but yeah, it was great. And the Jets losing on Monday Night Football, that was part of my pick 6. Happy to see that as well. I also called the perfect shot of the Cleveland shutting out Arizona, right? I said they were going to completely shut them out. They did. It's zero burger because Arizona is also another team that has decided it's time to look at the draft and play for the losses. So they'll be lucky to get another win the rest of the year.
Yeah, it looks like I got on the Josh Dobbs news.
I thought so. I'm like, what? Yeah, where did you see that? Like,
and I'm behind. I'm all kinds of behind on content today because so busy with work stuff and family stuff. But yeah, I just saw it must have been a fake headline, but it said, yeah, Josh Dobbs is going to lead a team to orbit Mars in 2024, and it looked legit. So I did a quick glance, but the big story is NASA shouted out Josh Dobbs because he's literally a rocket scientist and been to space and the whole deal, right? So, but yeah, and the world's getting crazy, man, with this AI and everything. Like, I don't know if you saw the Pat McAfee show a few weeks ago. They had a college coach on there swearing up a storm during the press conference, and it was AI generated. It wasn't even real.
I did not see that, but that's pretty scary. Yeah, right? The things AI can do these days is
pretty nuts.
Is nuts.
Okay, so that's not news. Don't get your news from the Hoof Podcast.
Breaking news.
Yeah.
I'm going to Mars. Woo-hoo!
I'm staying here. So. All right, Anthony's pick 6 recap.
Yeah, it was another mediocre week, but we kind of saw that coming because it was a tough week to make our picks. But my 6th pick of the week, I did go 3-3 this week. We talked about this one already. The Chargers won, which was great. Dominant performance by them. I said if they didn't win, everybody should be fired, but they were able to beat the Jets. My number 5 pick was the Dolphins getting points against the Chiefs. They had a chance to win it, and man, that last play of the game, that last drive, they just botched it. You're run down their throats for 2 plays. The run game's electric. Then you decide to put it into his hands, and he blows it completely. 3 plays in a row, nothing. The 4th play, he gets drops the ball even after a timeout.
Yeah.
Completely unacceptable. That team
very
was
interesting.
Just lost it. Like they're not mentally stable for those situations.
Well, some quarterbacks have clutch. some don't.
Exactly.
Right? Dak Prescott, another guy. You get down to the 10-yard line, I think it was, and they end up at the 20 due to penalties. But how many times did they throw the ball in the end zone? Once out of 8 tries.
It's really, really bad. Yeah, though Dak is also not reliable in those situations. Would not want him, and Dallas fans know that, and the coaches do too, apparently.
Sure. Well, now you're seeing repeat, right? So
Exactly.
You see it with Tua, you see it with Dak. It is what it is.
Speaking of repeat, this is the second time in 3 weeks I've picked the Rams with 3 points on the line, and they blew it. So not happy about that one. Green Bay looked like one of the worst teams in football, but Aaron Jones coming back seems to have springboarded them a little bit, and playing a Rams team that's a little beat up as well. The quarterback especially. So yeah, Green Bay got the win there in pretty dominant fashion. This was a big L for me. But moving on to the next one, the Browns, again, with that shutout victory, big time win for me here. I predicted the shutout. I predicted Cleveland -8. So that was a win for sure there. Pretty comfortable one at that. This next game, the Patriots at Washington. I mean, happy that the Patriots lost, obviously, but it was laughable. This was one of the 1:00 games that I got to watch, and I just couldn't believe that New England fell on their face as bad as they did against Washington and allowed them to come back and couldn't do what they needed to get the W in the beginning or at the end of the game. So yeah, the moral of the story, don't ever pick New England to win. And that's usually part of my story, my
Very
philosophy.
counterintuitive, yes.
But so good on Washington, bad for me though. And then obviously my big bet of the week, the one I was most comfortable with, especially in a week like this, the biggest bet I made of the weekend, Philly winning -3 at home versus Dallas, and Dallas looking epically bad, even though Philly tried to lose the game and didn't.
Yeah.
So it was definitely, I'm happy with that W in the end. 3-3. That puts my record on the season at 33, 22-3 for just above 61%. So we're still far and away doing very well this season. And now going into week 10, we'll see it on Thursday, but I'm pretty happy with a lot of these games, much more comfortable than I was in week 9 with the tough matchups and the tough lines. I think there's a couple beneficial things happening for week 10. So stay tuned for that as well.
Yeah, 61%. It's hard to beat that for sure.
Yeah.
And just, talking to some of the other games, just CJ Stroud, 5 touchdowns as a rookie.
Unbelievable.
Yikes. That was a great performance.
400 yards. I mean, unbelievable. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's going to be around for
good
a long time.
on him.
Just
Shame
what
on
we
me
needed. Just what the AFC needed. Another great quarterback in the conference.
I should have put the Texans in my pick 6. I think I've done it like 5 times already this year, and I didn't this game. But yeah, obviously you guys know where I'm at with the Texans. I love them. I'm very happy to see them doing well. And we'll see if they can turn that out the rest of the season. But CJ Stroud's running away with the rookie of the year. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely agree. And they're 4-4, right? Back at 500 and rolling.
Right
anyway, tune
in
in Thursday. We'll go through every game. Anthony's going to pick the Texans. But we'll do all our picks, and Anthony will do his pick 6 so you can get involved with the action, make a little dough, and that will all come out Thursday. Thanks for tuning in with us.
Yeah.
And we'll see you next time.
See you then.